Welcome to Alex Brown Racing's At the Races, a horse racing YouTube show that highlights horse racing around North America and a little bit worldwide for horse racing fans out there. This is the first of these shows, so it's a little bit of an experiment, but hopefully we'll get through some stuff and you'll enjoy it, but obviously I'm also looking for some feedback. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the 3-year-old division, the older horse division, look at some horses overseas, a couple of other things, and then wrap up. In the 3-year-old division in North America, we received some pretty bad news, certainly yesterday, Tuesday, and today, that the injury sustained by Union Rags will put him out for the rest of the year. He has a high suspensory injury, which isn't career threatening. There's no understanding to date yet what the plans will be for the horse, whether they'll try to return him to the races as a 4-year-old or whether he'll be retired, but the injury itself isn't career ending. So hopefully we might be able to get to see this really nice colt race as a 4-year-old. He was preparing for the Haskell Stakes at Monmouth Park, obviously coming off that terrific win in the Belmont Stakes, sort of a redemption race for him after getting beaten as one of the favourites for the Kentucky Derby. But Union Rags is now on the shelf, which is a real shame for horse racing generally, for Michael Matz and his team. They also have Teeth of the Dog, who since his race in the Preakness has reeled off 2 grade stakes wins and will or is currently being pointed for the Jim Dandy Stakes at Saratoga. I don't know if that's going to change now with Union Rags not running in the Haskell, whether Teeth of the Dog might be pointed for the Haskell, but prior to Union Rags getting injured, Teeth of the Dog was being pointed for the Jim Dandy Stakes at Saratoga as a prep race for the Travers Stakes, which is kind of the race that all the top 3-year-olds at this point, or those that are left, will be pointing toward. In the Jim Dandy, if that's where Teeth of the Dog goes, he may face the speedy Painter from the very fast Bob Baffert barn out on the west coast. That was the horse that Union Rags actually beat in the Belmont Stakes, ran him down at the end. Baffert's other speedy 3-year-old Bodemeister, who reeled off 2 great second-place finishes in the Derby and the Preakness, is being pointed towards the Haskell. Obviously, his assignment in the Haskell has been made much easier with the defection and the injury to Union Rags. But the 3-year-old division will start to heat up again over the next couple of weeks with the return of the Jim Dandy and the Haskell Stakes, as these horses use those 2 races to point to the last major 3-year-old race of the year, the Travers Stakes, also known as the Midsummer Derby at Saratoga. Obviously the 3-year-old division is also missing the Derby and Preakness winner. I'll have another. Unfortunately, he has gone to Japan for $10 million. There's lots of discussion, pros and cons over this deal. Should he have been retired? It's clearly bad for horse racing, sad for horse racing, sad for us horse fans, that we couldn't see this horse sort of develop into an older horse and see how good he truly could have been. But obviously he ran terrific races this year and has nothing to prove on that. So let's see if he is successful at stud. In the older horse division, we had a couple of actually really cool races last weekend, and I would have to say that Macho Man made a real believer in a number of people in his spectacular win in the Suburban. He actually won that race very, very comfortably, and I don't think he was supposed to. I think that was actually a very tough race. So Macho Man, who has been a reasonably consistent horse over the last couple of years, maybe he's coming into his own and can make a real mark on the older horse division, the sort of classic distance older horse division. On the west coast, Game On Dude is the major player over there, seems to be having a little bit too much fun beating up on the other older horses, and obviously that's a great opportunity for the lovely Chantel Sutherland to keep her name out there. She retains the mount on Game On Dude and has been very successful with that partnership. So Game On Dude on the West Coast reaffirmed his authority by winning quite easily the Hollywood Gold Cup last weekend, whilst Mucho Macho Picho Man emerged as a real star, I think, on the East Coast. Other horses in the older horse division that we definitely need to keep an eye on. You have to love the Shack. Not quite sure when he's going to return to the races, but I'm sure other people know, and it'll be quite soon. He's looking to develop into a terrific 7/8 a mile type older horse. Won his last 2 races, and just great to see. Let's see if Jesus Castanon gets back on him. I certainly would hope so, after the terrific partnership they had last year and the win this year. But obviously in his last race he was ridden by Johnny Velasquez to great effect, winning the Met Mile. But Shackelford certainly is turning into a beast at his right distance. Just takes off, takes charge, and just rolls. So if you're not a fan of Shackelford, I'm sure you're not a fan of horse racing. In the other older horses, sort of more of the classic distance, Ron the Greek and Wise Dan, I think, sort of reaffirmed their sort of status at the top of the lists with a great race in the Foster. Ron the Greek won that race, which was, I'm not entirely sure he was supposed to win, but looked good winning it. Although they ran the last quarter mile very slowly, the horses got very tired. Wise Dan, he's emerged into a very consistent top performer. On that day is Royal Delta also ran, and ran a terrific race in the Fleur de Lis, and actually ran a faster race and won by 8 or 9 lengths. So she came out of her Dubai disappointment very well with that terrific return. So Royal Delta on the distaff side is definitely one to keep an eye on. The only other horse I want to mention real quick, last year's Derby champion, Animal Kingdom. He's been galloping a couple of weeks now, back at the Fairhill Training Centre. Not sure yet when he's going to start to work and sort of point towards maybe a campaign this fall. I have not heard, but I have heard that he has been galloping now for a couple of weeks. Overseas, 3 superstars that have to be mentioned very quickly. Frankel, who's considered the best horse in the world right now, and quite rightly, with his undefeated winning streak. I think it's at 11 now. He will race in the Sussex Stakes at Goodwood, a Group 1 event, August 1st. He's been spectacular in his returns this year at Royal Ascot. The first day of Royal Ascot, absolutely brilliant. So it'll be exciting to see him run in the August 1st in the Sussex Stakes. He won that race last year very convincingly over Campo Cliffs, but that horse I think was probably injured in that race. So maybe he was flattered a little bit in that victory, but nevertheless Frankel is the best horse in the world right now. The horse right behind him on that list, Black Caviar, you have to love this mare. 22 for 22. Her jockey came in for a lot of criticism in his ride on Black Caviar in the race at Royal Ascot, but who cares? They both won. She's undefeated. She's won Grade 1 races now in Australia and in the UK. Absolutely fantastic. And she came out of that race a little bit sore by all accounts. She's now back in Melbourne, and you know what? They're going to give her some time off, and she's going to run next year in Australia, being next season, being sort of October time maybe, as a 6-year-old mare. So very exciting that Black Caviar is still rolling along and still doing what she does best, which is win races. So she's 22 for 22. You just got to admire that. Absolutely brilliant. And the other undefeated emerging superstar overseas is a horse called Camelot. I think he's 5 for 5 now. He's won the Guineas over there, the first leg of their Triple Crown, the Epsom Derby, the Irish Derby. And by all accounts, he's going to go for the St Leger at Doncaster. If he wins that, he'll take the Triple Crown, the first time a horse has done that, I think, since the Second World War or something. But nevertheless, it's not perhaps like over in the United States where every horse that's got a shot goes for the Triple Crown. And the race, the St Leger at Doncaster, has kind of been a little bit forgotten, but it is a record, and Camelot might go for it, and that would just be terrific for racing. So 3 superstars overseas, all 3 undefeated. How brilliant is that? Finally, good to note that Johnny Velasquez, who suffered a pretty tough injury in Kentucky not too long ago, is scheduled to be back galloping horses next week at Saratoga. And what does that mean? That Saratoga and Del Mar summer racing is really going to take off. Those 2 meets are going to begin very shortly, and with that we're going to see a lot more sort of 2-year-old racing, and that part of the season will pick up. So lots of fun, and hopefully this was enjoyable. The first of our YouTube shows, weekly shows that I'm going to sort of narrate and so forth. Thank you very much for listening. Be back next week. If you like this, please share it, and please provide any feedback.